What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're going to be previewing round 19. It's Port Adelaide versus Collingwood at the Adelaide Oval this Saturday night in a top of the table clash that's going to be bigger than any home and away game we've played in many years for Port Adelaide fans. Collingwood fans, this is a task for them to come over and really prove their credentials a lot more for their top spot in 2023. They're going to be taking on Port Adelaide, who have just come off a loss to Carlton. Unfortunately, the streak is over, and Collingwood obviously beating Fremantle at the MCG. This game has so much riding on it. I think it has a lot more riding on it for Port Adelaide than it does for Collingwood. I think Collingwood's credentials have been proven, whereas Port Adelaide's credentials are relying on a streak of 13 wins. But there hasn't been a moment where we've thought we're genuine, probable contenders for a flag. Obviously, you're going to have contenders throughout the year. Brisbane, Melbourne, Collingwood, Port, they're on the top four. You're normally a contender when you're in the top four. But I think if you want people to really believe that you're a chance at winning this year's flag, then you've got to knock off the big dogs. And I think doing that at the Adelaide Oval this week is what Port Adelaide need to do. Regardless, let's get into it and preview round 19. Well, this game's been marked in every Port Adelaide fan's calendar for the last 6 weeks. It's built to be one of the biggest games of the year, if not the biggest. It's going to be absolutely massive at the Adelaide Oval. Saturday night, prime time. Everyone's going to be watching. This is a top-of-the-table clash. We don't get these often. Now, when we get these, they're either earlier in the year or they're really built up towards finals, and every team is sort of scraping and trying to make their way, whereas this is a genuine contender game of footy, and it's going to be massive. It's at one of the best grounds in the world at the Adelaide Oval. It's a Port Adelaide side trying to prove themselves after a loss to Carlton. It's a Collingwood side trying to keep their top spot in check and try and go 2 games ahead and pretty much secure the minor premiership if they get the job done here at the Adelaide Oval. It's massive, and I'm looking forward to seeing exactly what Port Adelaide turns up. Port Adelaide coming into this one probably a little bit wary of the fact that Collingwood are probably in peak condition at the moment, whereas Port's list has taken a bit of a stumble over the last couple of weeks, and I think with Mackenzie and Dixon and Horne-Francis maybes for this week, they'll be great ins if we can get them. And I think with last week's changes against Carlton, it really proved that our list depth, if it's not on point, and we don't make the right choices at selection, it can hurt us. And combine that with a mentality of this game's bigger than any other game than we've played this year. Fair to say there's a lot riding on it when it comes to this week's selection. And if you're not even 100%, look, I know finals are going to be a bigger picture here, and this is round 19. But overall, if you want a point to prove, especially with the next 3 games for Port, it's Collingwood at home, it's the showdown, and then it's Geelong and Geelong. These are the 3 weeks. If you want people to really believe that you're going to be a contender, and you have every opportunity to win that flag and take it away from the Pies at the G, these are the 3 games you probably want to win, or you're very close to it. And looking at it as a Port fan, I said earlier in the year after the showdown that Port Adelaide need to prove themselves in the next block of 5 games. We'll end up doing that in the 13-win streak. So again, I'm going to sit here and say the next 3 weeks is a big picture for Port Adelaide in terms of 2023, and it starts with Collingwood. If we win the next 3, then we have a home run that's pretty favourable with the Giants at home, Freo in Perth, and then Richmond. That's pretty favourable. Come out of the next 6 with a 5-win-to-1 ratio, then we're sitting nice in second. We get a home final, and we're pretty much in a good position to set ourselves up for a home prelim and then go from there. But that's big picture stuff. This is this week. Collingwood are going to be a very big task, and I think Collingwood's star power has just been next level. Whether it's their key players like your DeGoes, your Darcy Moores, Jamie Elliott down forward has been kicking goals left, right, and centre. They've also been their middle bracket has also stood up. The last couple of weeks since coming in, Ash Johnson's really stood up, and obviously Mychek's a really a great star power player, and Bobby Hill's been fantastic. They've really stood. John Noble's another one as well that just continues to push his way, and they have so many of these players across each line in their team that just stand up. One-on-one contests. Braden Maynard is just ferocious. He's a tough footballer. He's going to give us a lot of I guess angst when it comes to playing in a forward 50. I think him versus Power Pepper's a phenomenal matchup. They're both very ferocious, hard going at the footy, and can change a game. Barometers of your team. really. I think you can describe both of them. That'd be a great matchup to watch, actually. Then you look at each other's defence and you're like, well, Port Adelaide's defence is really undermanned, but Collingwood's forward line doesn't really have a key, tall, star-powering forward. Obviously, McStay's down there, Myercheck, Johnson. They're all capable of working together and really causing some havoc. But in terms of one-on-one, Mason Cox as well. If you look at round 2, there's your blueprint. Collingwood's attack on the footy, their way of running and overlapping. That's what killed us last week against Carlton, is the overlapping run. We didn't have our defensive structures set. It was kind of loose, and they just got out the back. They kept breaking through, and we can't have that this week against Collingwood. Our defence has to be 110% on to make sure we're even a chance of not letting that ball out of our defensive 50, and then keeping it in our attacking 50 as well, and making sure that either end of the ground, we're pretty much set in making sure that we keep any bit of damage that Collingwood can cause in a small block of time to a minimum. Because if Collingwood get a run on, we've seen quarters where they've absolutely gone ballistic. And last week they were kicking accurately as well. I think that's another thing for Port this week is accurate goal kicking. We look at someone like Ollie Lord, who's kicked 1 goal, 2, and the 2 behinds he kicked were absolute shanks. And then you look at Collingwood, who barely kicked 5 points in a game. So it's these small things for Port Adelaide to get right this week as a team that will make the difference for them come Saturday night. Then you look at the midfield. Now, Collingwood had the luxury last week of having Mitchell as a sub. We don't have a luxury of picking a sub where we're going to be like, wow, we've got him to bring on. Last week was Burton. He's been out of form. Normally, out of form players either don't play at all or they're just working their way through. For me this week, you look at selection. You want your Dixon back in. You want your Horne-Francis back in. You want McKenzie back in. Jonas can't play this week. And if he was to play, he has to play a blinder of a game to stand up as captain. But you can just see the writings on the wall for him. I think Fantasia gets a go, especially with looking likely that we're going to have a couple of injuries and Burn Jones is out with concussion. Rioli comes back in. There's a bit of craft and creativity down forward. I think, the Ruckman, Lysette's going to be in this week. I think that's quite handy. Continuity in his game is going to be really helpful, but he didn't look as great last week. Maybe we look at bringing in Riley Bonner for a bit of extra pace. It's hard to tell. I think he's ahead of Burgoyne. I wouldn't play Bonner. They're pretty much the same player, but Bonner provides a little bit more flexibility in terms of playing on the wing or half forward. He can do that. I don't say it with great confidence, but I think he has more of an ability to do that than Burgoyne at the moment. Dersma looked pretty good, actually. He's been out for a majority of the time. He's going to have to take some running into his game, especially at AFL level. There's a lot of question marks on some of our players, and I think finally having a loss creates that doubt with our playing group. But I think on the same time, it sort of has a bit of a wake-up call. It's like, all right, we're not invincible anymore. We're not a team that's going to go undefeated for the rest of the year. We had to have a loss. We did that. And now we're in a position where we play the top team, the best of the best, and we have to stand up, and our players have to stand up and really try and prove a point. Okay, so I'm going to give you my tip. I'm tipping Port Adelaide by 11 points. There is just something about a big game this year that we've turned up and actually said, yeah, we're in for the fight. St Kilda on a Friday night. Gather Round was another one, I think. You look at the D's on the Friday night when we played them without a forward line. We stood up and we won that game. The Dogs on the Friday night. The Geelong game on the Thursday night. Majority of these games have been at home or at Marvel. The home game factor is massive. It's time to turn the tide on what happened at round 2 and really say to Collingwood and to the fans and to the AFL in general, the streak's not just what we're going to be defining 2023 with. We're a genuine contender. It is time to stand up for that. And you've got Braden Maynard coming out saying, hope Port bring their A game. I hope we have a warning sign. I hope we have something that says, yeah, we're not going to take that. We're going to actually stand up. And I think with 50,000 people, the game's sold out. It's been sold out for 2 weeks. This game's going to be huge. And I've said that. It's massive. But in the context of this season, you look at the rivalry of what Collingwood and Port Adelaide have had over the years. Close games, biff, prison bars. It all culminates into a game. It's not a grand final, but it could be a grand final preview. We've seen games over the years where the top two teams in a grand final preview showcases in the minor rounds. And I take it back to Geelong, St Kilda in 2009. It was the game of the year. It was probably one of the best games ever. It culminates. Geelong and Hawthorn have always had those battles in the late 2000s and 2010s. It just has that feel about it this week. And if I'm sitting here right now, am I confident? I'm not going to say I'm 100% believing we're going to win this game, but nobody will. You can't 100% say to me right now, Port Adelaide are going to win this game. You have no physical evidence to suggest that we can. Same with Collingwood. I think you can't physically say that they're going to win this game. You can tip them. You can say, I think so, but no one's 100%. AFL football's not 100%. And this week, I just hope to God we get the job done. Let me know in the comments below, everyone, your thoughts on this game. It's going to be, as I keep saying, absolutely massive. So I'm looking forward to it Saturday night. I'm not going to be there. I'm going to be in Melbourne for JT's 21st. So make sure you check out the glass table and check our latest episode out there as well. So hopefully me not being in the state can get us across the line. I don't know. You can believe in that omen if you want. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, yeah, it's a big night. It's going to be wild, and I'm going to be shaking. I think everyone's going to be shaking. But chill out. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new for plenty more Port Adelaide and AFL content to come your way for the rest of the season. My name's Anthony, and as always, come the pair.